The white guy have a break for once.
Oh, for once! Folks, on Saturday evening, after a tweet was made by Tessa Blanchard, and this is involving this exact match that we are heralding, Pasty and I, about women supporting each other, several female wrestlers, including Shauna, Renee Michelle, and Allison Kay, I don't know why I said Kane, went on record to blast
Such a
Blanchard.
silent N, I can't even see it.
Yes. Anyway, those women went on record to blast Blanchard's past conduct, notably her spitting on and calling La Rosa Negra a racial slur in 2017.
She's probably just saying her last name. Man.
I'm so glad that the white guy said that before I got to say it. Because I've thought it. But La Rosa Negra uploaded a video giving her side of the allegation. She said, quote, "When I saw those tweets, I was in shock and impressed because since 2017, people have been pushing me to speak out about something that isn't necessary. I don't like to talk about my personal life. I like to keep myself private. Reading all these fellow wrestlers' tweets that support me and reading their names, it surprised me. And reading the non-wrestlers' comments, I said I have to do something because it isn't how it says it was. Maybe people took it wrong. I don't want to be overexposed with this. The female wrestlers know what really happened and why I didn't say anything. Now, I want to clear things up. Working in the U.S. and Japan, I didn't respect anybody. No female wrestlers, promoters, sponsors, or any fans. That's not me. People who know me know how I am. Everywhere I've worked, they can tell you how I behave. I don't like to talk mean about people. I was there supporting people that helped me or didn't. I don't expect to receive any apologies. It's not necessary. I erased what happened. I gave it to God. It saddens me that racism, envy, and bad things exist in sports.
Yes, only
it will
good
always be there.
Should exist in sports.
As adults, when something bad happens, we can resolve things by talking. There's always a solution. Mine was to forget what happened on that day in April of 2017 in Japan.
Oh, she should have said the date just to prove that she didn't forget it.
I think this was a good experience for me because now I know I have a lot of backup. It's impressive. I didn't know so many people knew about the situation until the Twitter thing. I feel fulfilled. I feel tickled. Nothing will dull everything that I have achieved alone. Now that was La Rosa Negra's response to what these women have brought up. Pasty, you want to let us know what Tessa had to retort?
Of course, Tessa Blanchard posted a statement on Twitter about the recent controversy surrounding her past behavior. Over the last week, I have been accused of calling a fellow wrestler a racial slur. To read this allegation has been personally upsetting. To be clear, I absolutely did not use that word. That word is not in my vocabulary, and that word is not in my heart. So what you gonna do, brother? Racism is not in my heart. Yet I know many people have to deal with racism in a way I will never have to. Racism is an awful part of American history, and it is equally awful that it's still part of our society today. While I did not do what was claimed, I stand ready to use my platform to support the fight against racism however I can. And once again, post her main event match at Hard to Kill, she had a speech in which she had said, I'm not a perfect person. I've done things I do regret, and I'm not that person anymore. And then some other things, along with an inspiring speech about how she's the new Impact champion, and anybody who's got a problem with that has to step up. But I mean, to me, for her to acknowledge it right afterwards, especially when Impact so easily could have said, "Oh, you're not winning it now."
Right.
That's
big.
Yeah.
And I will say, Either she's got a great PR person, she spent a lot of time thinking of this, or she really feels this way. I don't know, but I love the fact that something you rarely ever hear in these fake apologies, something that stood out to me as somebody of color, something that stood out to me was, let me think, here it is. She said, racism is not in my heart, yet I know many people have to deal with racism in a way I will never have to. You rarely hear that. A lot of times they try to almost make you feel like they are being attacked. Even though, no offense to anybody, no Caucasian person understands it. They might understand other issues that happen to them, 100%. I had a discussion with a family member of mine who is Caucasian who was talking about white privilege, and I had a discussion about how nobody's saying that your life's easy, but there are issues you will never have to deal with ever, 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 ever in your life.
Yeah.
And it's cool she said that. She also, there's something else that she said that I was really, I thought was awesome. But another thing that I want to point out, which is related to this, but not directly related, but I was talking to at work with a coworker of mine, is that Pacey, I seen a thing that's going around here, and maybe you have seen it, maybe other people have seen it. The first black student to ever be allowed into a white school, and I forget her name, and actually I'm going to look it up because she deserves recognition. But that isn't even what the deal is. It isn't about her recognition. The thing about that is, Pasty, the first black person to ever be allowed in a white school, she turned 65 this year. That's how young racism is.
Yeah, yep.
Her name is Ruby Bridges, folks. Ruby Bridges, she deserves all the credit in the world because you know for a fact, if you think it's hard going to fucking elementary, middle school now, fuck you to be the first black person and to be a woman, okay? She had hell to fucking pay. I would rather drag my testicles over cactuses that are 100 degrees and then let fucking rabid wolverines chew spam off of my naked body than deal with what she dealt with. But Ruby Bridges, the first black child at all-white public elementary school, is in Louisiana. She just turned 65 years today. So that's how young racism is.
Yeah.
It's not something of the past. It's something that is here today. That means that the people that hated her kind back then are still alive as well. Those exact same people that tried to keep her out of school are still alive and voting.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to make this cultural, but I thought that was a decent time to exclaim that.
No, it's a big thing, and a lot of people don't realize that. Like, even the entire history of the United States of America is like only, what, three and a half people ago?
Oh, yeah.
If you think about the average lifespan of a human.
It's awful. Speaking of awful, though, I didn't think I would mention KKK in this broadcast, but Pasty put it on my lap, and so I'll do it. Because, folks, the controversy doesn't stop here. As former WWE star Abraham Washington, and I'm going to preface this by saying he's an African-American, has recently been portraying a new character called Reverend Jeremiah Constantine on his YouTube channel. Now, on Friday, Washington posted a video portraying a new character, Pasty, a character called Clark Kunte Kent. Those are all K's to start out with, so his initials are KKK. And he took some heavy-handed shots at WWE. He started off taking aim at Seth Rollins' new Messiah gimmick, which, when I was writing this news story, was the first time I heard Seth Rollins has a Messiah gimmick.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get into that later,
he's
Pasty.
the Messiah of Monday Night since he became a heel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a heel, so maybe we'll get into that
It just makes me
later.
think the modern day Maharaja.
So,
You know what I
old KKK said, Seth, as of today, is 33 years old. Ironically, Jesus was murdered at age 33. Clearly, WWE is attempting to repeat history by crucifying his career with shitty, sacrilegious, back to life CM Punk Messiah type gimmick. Speaking of being brought back to life, the only thing in need of resurrection seems to be WWE Creative itself, which has been dead since 2003. And that is heavily reflected in Monday Night Raw's ratings. Washington went on as Kent to take aim at Triple H's recent crude joke about Paige, which, if you all don't know, Triple H made a joke about Paige maybe having kids she didn't know about out there.
Yeah.
And he kind of brought it up out of nowhere. It was kind of weird. Very uncomfortable. Anyways.
It was uncomfortable, but it was such like a nothing statement in the middle of like nothing going on in this press release thing. Like, I'm surprised it made news at all.
Well, it kind of was, but he kind of just pulled it out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden, like he was going through cards, like, okay, now it's time to shit on Paige. Paige has kids she doesn't know about. Okay, let's move on to other things. Weird.
Well, I mean, if Becky Lynch can be the man, Paige can have kids she doesn't know about, right?
I think that's two very different things on opposite ends of the spectrum. But nonetheless, what old Kunta Kent said was, can you believe that shit? This coming from a man who fucked a cold, lifeless body. I love this so much. And no, I'm not talking about Katie Vick. I'm talking about Stephanie McMahon, you cold-hearted bitch. God, I love that. I marked out when I read that. I marked out so hard when I read that. Oh, because while I was reading it, I was like, is he really going to claim that Triple H the man is horrible because Triple H the character fucked Katie Vick? And then he corrected me while I'm reading it. Said, no, I'm talking about that cold heart. Okay.
I love it.
Wow. This isn't newsworthy other than the fact that it's so vulgar and so out there. Abraham Washington was never a big star.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to rack my mind as to when. When was he in WWE?
Look him up. I don't know. Abraham Washington.
Here comes a bunch of shit about the presidents.
I know, right? Abraham Washington was in WWE from 2009 to 2012. So at the time, I wasn't watching. Just at the time, I was just starting to get back into it.
Looks like. I'm just.
So at the time, I was getting into pro wrestling, or back into WWE. Nothing really.
I should have been watching by 2012.
Well, you should have known Abraham Washington.
I'm looking right now.
He went by the nickname KKK, Pasty. Does that ring a bell?
No, I'm seeing his face, and I'm still not recognizing him.
Well, he probably wasn't that big, and this is probably the most he's ever gotten. I will say, he's really good at what he does right now. He should stick to this.
He managed the primetime players for a period, I guess. So that's the thing.
Okay, I was never into them either.
Vaguely remember. Yeah, Titus O'Neil and Darren Young. Millions of dollars. No?
No, I remember them. I just wasn't into them.
Yeah, no.
They were like a cheap Crime Time, which is now a cheap Private Party. Although Private Party has more talent than the two guys you just talked about.
Yeah.
And I think JTG would have been good in Private Party, but Chad Jaspar wouldn't have been good. So, yeah, they're all kind of the similar gimmick. Hey, we got two black guys. Let's make them thugs.
That's the way it goes. Well, stepping away from controversy a little bit, Major League Wrestling is currently